Hey everyone, today we are going to create a artwork inspired by the art of Claude Monet, and this is actually a photograph of his gardens in Giverny, France. He is no longer alive, he passed away, but his family has taken care of the home where he lived and worked, and he created his own gardens and pond that he could use to paint pictures of. And so he'd go out at different times of the day and actually paint what he saw and how the light kind of changed throughout the day. So this is actually a photograph of the pond. There are gardeners today that still take care of it. They even would go out and he would go out and paint in a boat actually in the middle of his pond. So here's an example of one of his paintings, and this is kind of a close-up, and then another one here where you can kind of see from far away, so you can see more of the lily pads and the lilies. We're going to create this sort of painterly effect that he uses with something called foil printing. So when you get started, you're going to want a sheet of paper. It should be okay if it's not painting paper, it should still work okay. You're also going to want your washable markers. You're going to need a piece of foil. I've actually wrapped mine around kind of a piece of cardboard just to kind of keep it sturdy, but you can just lay a piece of foil out on the table. And then you'll want scissors and glue for later on. And then the other thing is you need a spray bottle. Now, it doesn't have to be this big, but maybe there's one in the laundry area somewhere at home or underneath. Maybe you have it like for cleaning, but you want just water in the spray bottle. Old hairspray bottles can also be used for this. If there's like an old hairspray bottle that you can just spritz some water. If you don't have the ability to spray water, you can still try and do this and just drip some water on, but it probably won't work as well. All right, so when you get started, you're gonna use this paper for all three parts of the picture, the pond, the lily pad, and the lily. So to do this, you're gonna actually need to divide this paper up first. So I'm gonna fold it in half and kind of crease the fold to give myself a line to cut on. So then I'm gonna take my scissors and I'm going to cut on that line that I created. And then I'm actually going to do that on one other piece here. So this is going to be my pond piece. And then I'm going to fold this one in half. And that is going to be 1/2 for the lily pad and 1/2 for the water lily. Okay, so now I have my three pieces. The first thing I need to do on each of these pieces is get them ready. So in the pond, you could add waves of water, you could add like green grass around the edge or plants that you might see around the edge. When you looked at this pond, you can see there's lots of plants kind of almost drooping down into the water. So you can add some of those things. You could draw little flowers along the edge. It's kind of up to you. So I'm going to add some waves in here. I'm using a wavy line for that. You can also do like swirls as well. And then maybe I'll do some kind of plants coming in from the edge. Do a couple of leafier things here. Okay, so you get the idea. So that's how I'm going to decorate my pond. Then, to draw the lily pad, I'm going to make a loop, basically, a giant loop, using my finger here as sort of a placeholder. I don't want to draw the loop there. So I'm going to start at my finger and make a big kind of circular loop bubble around there, but I'm not going to do it where my finger is. Then I'm going to take my finger away and I am going to draw a cutout, like a lily pad would have. Then from the top of that point, I'm going to make the veins of the lily pad going out to the edges all the way around. Like that. All right. Now, with the lily pad and the water lily, I'm going to need to cut them out before I do the foil printing. So the first thing I do is I just cut around my round shape and I try my best to stay on the line. And then after I've cut out the round shape for my lily pad, then I'll go back and kind of snip out that little triangular shape. All right, so that's first, and then I come in here and I just line my scissors up and I snip and I snip, and I've got that piece out of the way. All right, now the water lily, what I like to do is actually start with a circle. You can draw it in any number of colors. In this example, you can see it's more of a pinkish color. They also come in some oranges and yellows. There's a lot here that aren't actually opened up yet. I think there's a yellow one up there. You can see in his, we've got some white ones. So you can draw on the edge with whatever color you prefer. I'll do an orange one. So first thing is to make kind of a big circle shape again, and that's going to help us with cutting. Then you want to do a zigzag around the circle where it's touching it. Like that. You can add another row inside, or even two if you have enough room for that. So just another zigzag on the inside, and then in the very middle is, I'm going to use yellow for this, where the pollen is in the flower, and it's kind of, you can see this in the up close one. You can see it a little bit in this one. It's kind of like all these little yellow lines that come out from the center. So I'm actually going to make an X, and then I'm going to add another couple lines through it like that. Okay, so when you cut this one out, you're going to cut the circle first. The circle was mostly just our guide for cutting. And then we're going to be snipping out the space between, just like we did with the lily pad. So I snip one side and then I snip the other. That gives me that petal shape. Snip and snip. So that'll make the lily. Now once that's done, then you're going to be ready to do the foil printing because you have all your parts ready. So do this kind of fast. You should definitely take your time though. You don't want to overcut it. And if it's not exactly on the line, it's still okay. All right, so next up, I am going to move my scissors out of the way. I don't need all these little scraps anymore. The very first thing I'm going to foil print is my lily. So I'm going to choose some colors that I want to use for that. So I could use more oranges. I could do a lot of yellow. I think I'm going to try kind of doing yellow around the outside. So I do want to make sure that's going to fit. So I'm going to do some yellow around the outside. I'm just coloring the marker on the foil. You don't have to be super precise with it. It's okay if it doesn't perfectly line up with things. And then I'm going to do a little bit of pink there, and then I'm going to do a little bit of orange in between, so it kind of gradually changes color. All right, now the colors aren't going to stay right there because when you spray it, they're going to kind of start to move around. So you want to spritz. You don't want the bottle super close. You want it up high so it gets it all wet. I'm just going to spray it that one time, and you can already see the colors starting to move. And then I'm going to put this face down on the foil, and I'm going to kind of tap it. And you might get a little bit of this on your hands doing this. All right, and then when I lift it up, the color is on there. If you get a weird white spot, you can definitely kind of press it back down and try and fill it in where there's still some paint. That's okay too. You could even kind of swirl it and pick up more if it didn't work well for you the first time. Okay, so you will need to clean this between. So if you have like a tissue or a paper towel or something to clean with, you're just gonna wipe it dry. I actually forgot my tissue, so tissue or paper towel works great. And you can see it takes off the extra marker too. All right, so now I'm gonna do my lily pad next. I can definitely use the green. I can also mix in some yellows and blues to kind of change the way the green looks. I like to start with my yellow marker first so I don't mess it up, because if I'm coloring on the green with the yellow, it tends to pick it up on the marker. Make sure the space you're coloring is big enough. I'm gonna add in some greens, kind of mix them together a little, and then I'm gonna take a little bit of this blue-green color I've got here, kind of finish that up. Okay, so again, make sure that you don't spray too close, and if an adult needs to help you with this, you can certainly ask for help. I'm just gonna spritz it kind of that one time, and you can see the colors starting to move. And then I'm gonna lay it vein side down, and same deal. I'm gonna kind of rub, make sure the color transfers to the paper. And then lift it up, and if you get a weird white spot and you don't like it, you can just kind of tap it back down and fill it in. Okay, and then this last one, this one can be kind of tougher to do because it's a bigger paper. So obviously I need to cover more of the foil, but I'm just gonna use a lot of pond colors, and I'm just gonna do kind of a lot of waves basically across here. So I add in a lot of waves of color. So I'm gonna stick with a lot of blue. I've got a couple of blues in mine. I've got sort of a turquoise blue and then a darker blue. And then I'm also gonna add in some purples, I think, as well. You can also add in some green. The green can look really nice in there too, especially near the edges. But I'm just doing waves of color. I'm not actually coloring it in. So here, I'll do some green kind of close to the bottom and then close to the top. Now you may need to spray this one a little bit more because it is a bigger surface. So I'm actually gonna give it 2 sprays there. It looks like it's not gonna show up as well along the edges, but that's okay because that could look like light reflecting in the water. All right, so then I'm gonna lay this face down and then rub it to make sure that I get all of the marker that I can onto the paper. All right, and there we go. So you can see I have a little bit of white along the edges, but that's okay. If you don't like that, you can always put more down and do it again and kind of layer it on there as well. And then once that's done, you're gonna wanna let your papers dry before you glue them together. You can probably add glue on while it's wet, but it might get a little bit wrinkly. So then you can kind of figure out how you want to place things on there. Some people like to put it on top like this. Typically when they grow, the lilies actually are a little bit between there. The lily pad is the leaf to the water lily plant. So there's a lot of stems and roots under the water that you can't see, but most often they are kind of between the lily pads. And if you wanted to make more lily pads, you could do that too. But just kind of figure out how you want to place them in there. And then you just use your glue and put it on the back and glue it on to finish it up. All right, I hope you have fun. I'll see you later.